what you are living demonstrates what you actually believe. So I could sign off on a statement of faith, but and say that I believe the Lamb has won. But if my demonstrated life looks more like a beastly kind of life, like if I'm just living in the empire, following after my own desires and following after like political power and all, like if I'm grasping, then I'm demonstrating my heart is being lived out in my life.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Whiskey in the Writings. I'm your host, Joe, and Whiskey in the Writings is a place for the skeptic, the seeker, those who still believe, but maybe just not like they used to. A place where you can wrestle with real and honest questions about where you're at in your journey of faith. And I'm so glad you're here today because we have another interview with you. And listen, I'm probably going to say this all the time. It's like the pastor that says, oh, this is my favorite verse in the Bible, or this is my favorite story in the Bible. I'm going to say this about my interviews because I just love talking to these people. And today you're in for a treat. We're talking about the church. We're talking about why the church matters. We're talking about church hurt and why someone should still continue to lean into the church. And we're talking about all of that with Pastor Josh Kramer. Josh is a pastor here in the Treasure Valley, and he's one of the smartest dudes. Like, seriously, like, I don't know how to... Josh is an enigma because he has this like humility and humbleness to him about the way that he carries himself, and yet dude is wicked smart, like scary smart. Josh is one of a kind. He is a pastor's pastor, and I'm so excited for you to meet him. Now, I've already gushed about him already. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what you're up for in this episode, but today we're drinking Brothers Bond, and I'm going to share why we're drinking Brothers Bond in this episode. So I'll save some of it for the actual episode because we'll pour a drink while we're talking. But we're drinking Brothers Bond. I've never had this before, and I thoroughly have enjoyed it. So we've been sipping on this, and it's a great whiskey. Again, I've never seen it before, and there's a reason why I picked it out, and you'll get that in the episode. But for now, whatever you have in front of you, pour your drink, take a sip. Cheers, and we're going to get going. Yeah, that's a good whiskey. So, as I was saying, Josh Kramer, he's a pastor of a church here in the Treasure Valley, and we talk about the church. He has such an incredible story, and I'm so excited to talk to Josh because he and I have a very similar kind of, I don't know, like there was a connection that was made with Josh when I first met him. Because I connected to his story. He is someone who has experienced the feelings of being rejected by what you thought was church family. And I'll let him tell his story. But when I heard it for the first time, not in this interview, but when I first met him, and I got to hear a little bit of his story. We had him in Grace over at our house and got to exchange a little bit of what our experiences have been. And I just resonated with that because the feeling of like when you've invested years of your life into a community of people that you thought were your family, and for them to go, you don't belong anymore because you think different. That's a pain that I don't wish on anyone. And churches are really good at that for some reason. And so this is why I decided to bring Josh in, because in light of that experience, Josh is a pastor, and he and Grace lead this beautiful community here in Boise. And one might like say, why would you go and start a church if you've experienced this kind of pain? So what we're talking about here is why the church still matters and how the church can still make an impact in our world today. So that's what we're talking about on this episode of Whiskey in the Writings. And I'm telling you what, you're in for a treat. Here's the thing about this episode. I'm just going to tell you right now. You don't want to miss the end, because right when you think we're about to wrap up the conversation, Josh says something, and it makes my brain go like, oh, I have like 10 other questions about what you just said. And so then we like, right when you think we're about to end the conversation, we just dive even deeper into more topics. So this is going to be a long episode. I have chapters in there so you can skip ahead if there's something that you want to hear us talk about. But I'm so glad that you're here. Let me tell you a little bit about Josh. Josh is a pastor for wounded people and a student of God's word. He loves to apply the full holistic good news of Jesus to real situations that we're all living in. From cultural movements and politics to our daily stresses and concerns. In the middle of our busy and complicated lives, Josh loves to pay attention to the work and presence of God. Josh graduated from Capitol High School in 2000, the U of Chicago English and Classics in 2004, and Regent College with his MDiv in 2008. He loves tennis, he loves bourbon, and I couldn't be more excited to have him on the show. Please welcome to Whiskey in the Writings, Josh Kramer. I love it. I love it. Okay, Josh, this is what we're drinking today. I picked this out for this interview.
Okay.
This is called Brothers Bond. This is just a straight bourbon. It's not 100 proof. It's 80 proof. I usually drink in the hundreds, but this is 80.
It's a gift to me.
Yeah, because you do got to cut an 100 most of the time. But this, here's the thing about this. I saw this on the shelf. I've never had it. And the name caught my eye. Mm-hmm. And I thought of this interview because there's something about when we met through Kairos and through school stuff that there was just something I connected with you. Yeah. Like there felt like the thought that came to my head was, why is this the first time I'm meeting this person?
Yeah, totally.
Because there's something there that I'm like, I really like this guy.
Yeah.
And so, so I found this whiskey, and I just thought that this is actually the first time that we've really just sat down, just you and me,
yep,
and had conversation.
Yeah.
And, we've been in groups with other people and we've had theological conversations, and, but I'm really, really excited for this. I'm so stoked for this.
Yeah.
This is going to be a great conversation. So I bought this, Brothers Bond, a little sentimental. Like, I don't know if it's good.
I love it.
I've heard it's good. Okay. I have no idea. So you and I are going to taste this for the first time. I don't usually do an unwrap. Let's drop that down there. But we're going to do this here, and we're going to, for the first time, taste this together. And what I believe maybe will be, not the last time we do this.
I love it. Well, I'm honored to be drinking Brothers Bond with you.
So good.
Also, I didn't know that the glasses are etched. Like, this is the real deal.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a glass for you too after.
Can you see that? I mean, that's, it's amazing. That's so good.
So this is Brothers Bond. Cheers. Here we go. Cheers. First tasting. Doesn't have a lot of a bite.
Nope.
But that's the 80 proof, right? So
I'll drink that.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah. No, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right.
I like it. Thanks.
Well, thanks for joining me on Whiskey and the Writings.
It's an honor.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So we're going to go because we got a lot to talk about and we got a lot of ground to cover. And where I want to start out with you in this conversation is your story. Now, those that are watching this that have no idea who Josh Kramer is, when I first heard your story, I was just caught up in it because those that watch this channel know that I spent the better part of my adult life in pastoral ministry, from youth ministry to pastoring a church to associate pastor. And so as Josh is a pastor, when I first met you and I heard your story, there was just a connection I felt to you because I felt our stories were very similar. Although yours, I felt like maybe was a little bit harder in the sense of what you went through. And I want to give you a chance to just share with our audience a little bit of where you started out in ministry, the church you worked at, what maybe brought you out of that, what caused you to have to step out of that. And then I'm going to have some follow-up questions in regards to that situation. So share a little bit about your background, ministry and pastoral ministry, and then what brought you out of that.
Yeah. As a pastor's kid, so grew up in the church, basically was a pastor's kid from the time I was 8 months old. My dad was a pastor the whole time. He was pastoring in a church here in Idaho from the time I was 12. And so I left for college, did grad school, did seminary in Canada.
Was your dad at the church that you came back to work in?
Yep.
Okay, so same church.
Yep. And so came back after grad school, got a job at the church as a young adults pastor.
How many years did you do that?
12 and a half years. Yeah.
12 years.
Yeah. So I was young adults, but that whole time, 12 and a half years, I was young adults. But in the meantime, I did small groups. We had an in-house seminary program that I directed and taught classes at. And they were asking me to do more and more preaching kind of gradually throughout that time. So by the time I left, I was kind of the third preacher. They had two guys who were the main teaching pastors, and then I preached once a month or so.
Okay. So take me into what caused you to leave that environment.
Yeah, there were several red flags over the previous probably 10 years before we left, before we considered leaving. Things like there was a lot of kind of under the surface conflict that never got dealt with, and there wasn't really a mechanism for dealing with it that we could see. Those of us who kind of could see the conflict coming looked around and were like, how do we navigate this? Who do we talk to? How do we get this conflict out in the open so it can be like healed and dealt with? And we couldn't ever find a way of making that happen. There was differences in our understandings of the gospel. So there were several red flags, but things came to a head starting for me in 2016 after Trump was elected. I wrote a series of blog posts saying, hey, I think if this is who we are, like if our community, we're a white evangelical church, if our community elected this guy, then we need to think about how we live with integrity in this time when he's president. Like, what does it mean for us? Like, if we say it's all about abortion, and that's the real reason we elected Trump, then we need to name when he lies. We need to name when he mistreats women, when he mistreats people of color. We need to name that he's a product of the sexual revolution as much as abortion is. Like, we needed to name these things, and then also like treat refugees and immigrants with decency and respect, and stand up for our sisters. And like, there was a call, a gospel call for us in that time. So I wrote a series of blog posts. They asked me to take it down within 3 hours, right? That was how quickly they were able to make decisions. And then when I said, okay, but I need some direction then about what I am allowed to say, and like what's an appropriate thing to say, how we're supposed to talk about this, I really didn't get any direction for the next 4 years. And so I was like, I don't know how to navigate this space. So over the next several years, we could see everything that we saw in the evangelical church in America, the divisions that were starting to happen. We could watch them happening in our community, and it was really painful. And I said, we've got to talk about this. We've got to navigate all of this through the lens of the gospel. And we just couldn't find ways of doing it. So for me, I mean, to make a long story pretty short, 2020 was coming, and I got mono. I got like, I could see the politics coming. I could feel the pressures and divisions within our own community. And so I got sick and stayed sick basically all of 2020. So kind of feeling all of the tensions, finally realized that it wasn't primarily a medical issue, but was a like spiritual and emotional issue. Spent a lot of time with a spiritual director in that season. Thought through what are the things that I need for me to kind of survive if I'm going to stay in this role. So in early 2021, went back to the elders. They invited me, and we were having a whole conversation, and because they could see that I wasn't real happy. But I mean, 2020 pandemic, George Floyd, the election, and then early 2021 was the insurrection. So a whole bunch of stuff was building up at that point. And I went to the elders and I said, look, these are the things that I need from you. And I need to be able to like find ways of navigating these conversations in gospel ways. And I need some direction and leadership. And their response to me, the language was, Josh, we believe God is calling you that direction, and we're never going that direction. So from there, it became clear, like, well, we have a different way to go.
Let's, so this is a church that your father worked at. I know Grace, your wife, was very involved in.
Yep. Her parents were on staff.
Is involved in. Yep. Walk me through, because I think when people experience, lack of a better word, church hurt, it's not arbitrary. It's usually through like deep-seated relationships that people experience some real significant pain.
Yeah.
And name that for me. You're in this place where you're essentially being told that what is happening in your heart is not, there's not a place for you in this. How did that hit you? How did that hit Grace? And how did you begin to navigate those emotions?
Yeah, that's great. There were several things that prepared us for that moment that made it possible for us to kind of navigate it, hopefully. One was, again, I was meeting with a spiritual director, and I had learned enough about myself over the previous year. Several things I want to name. One, God showed up in power and prepared us for that moment. So the October before, I had several people tell me, people that knew me and cared for me, say, I don't think you're going to be able to continue pastoring there. You can't, I think the language is more like, you can't do what God has called you to do if you remain in that role. And so I was like, no, like, I'm going to be here forever.
You wanted to hold on to that. Like, we can figure this out.
I was confident that we could figure it out. Confident.
Which is what most people do. Like when there's that initial, like there's a pulling to something else. Like we want to resist that and go, no, we can figure that out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be honest. Like I would go to church plant kinds of things, like church plant trainings and stuff, and leave going, thank God I'm not called to plant a church.
Okay.
Like I'm just not that guy. Yeah. I'm not going to enjoy it if that ever happened.
Yeah.
Like I'm not that guy. And so, so these friends tell me you're going to need to leave, and probably plant a church.
Okay.
So I went to my spiritual director and I said, I think these people are totally off base, but these people know me and love me.
Sure.
And they're telling me that I'm going to need to plant a church. So my spiritual director in his great wisdom said, hey, let's listen to Jesus on that. He agreed with me before the conversation. He was like, that sounds like a terrible idea. You should not leave and plant a church.
Wow.
So both of us are in that space, but we're like, let's listen to Jesus.
Okay.
What I hear from Jesus, the words were, you'll know when it's time to go, which partly just gave me confidence. Be like, okay, it'll be so clear. I don't have to create a scenario where it's time for me to leave. Yeah. What he heard was, when the brook dries up, it's time to leave. So we both heard from Jesus the same message. There will be clarity when it's time to go.
Okay.
So when I was having the conversation with the elders at the church and they said, we're never going that direction, immediately my brain went to, oh, wow, it's time to go.
Yeah.
Like, no big deal. Like, this is just what it is. So, so God prepared me for that moment in really significant ways. And again, like, had already brought a community. They were part of our launch team. In October, again, when other people are telling me we're going to need to plant a church, in October, they're starting to invite people to the church plant that we hadn't even talked about at that point. Like, they're talking to other people saying, hey, my friend Josh is going to plant a church. So we had a community built for us before. So I'll tell you, the day that so the elders made a decision on a Monday night, and we met on Wednesday. On Tuesday morning, I woke up and like the sky was blue and the sun was shining and I felt lighter. Literally, the song in my heart that morning, not knowing what the elders had talked about the night before, that morning, the song in my heart was, I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. Like, God gave me a real sense of freedom before the thing even before the conversation even happened. So I say that just to say, God had done a lot of work in me and in my heart, and God had already been doing work in Grace. So she felt, by the time we left, she felt already, and had felt probably a year and a half, I don't want to be here anymore, which is hard because that's the church she grew up in. Like, she was in the nursery in that church, and she was like, I can't stay here anymore. Now, I mean, that doesn't deal with all the pain, right? Because there's tons of relational pain. There's lots of broken relationship that I don't know how to heal at this stage still, 5 years later. There's people who for the next several years were going through a lot of church trauma, like that the church exploded, like imploded. And so a lot of people went through a lot of church trauma from that.
So I want to explore this idea. What I find is interesting is when people go through traumatic experiences like that. And what I hear you saying is that God has already been preparing a way forward in the midst of what you experienced.
Yep.
But one of the things that I experience a lot from people that I talk through, that kind of Whiskey in the Writings seems to serve an audience to bring dialogue to church hurt and pain. And a lot of people go like, that church thing, I can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And yet, instead of you just going like, you know what, I'm just going to go off and ride off in the sunset. Like that career's over. I'm going to start something new. You planted a church.
Yeah.
And what I find so when my wife and I planted our church, it wasn't through the lens of hurt. We experienced the hurt a year after we had planted.
Okay.
So for us, it was a drawing out that we immediately recognized of like, hey, we think we're being moved into this space. And then, so there was like a support system, and there was like, yay, and a lot of celebration. And then a year later, oh, you're not doing it like we thought you should do it.
Yeah.
That's when the pain came, right?
Yep.
But yours like you had pain.
Yep.
There was a disruption, a conflict, a difference that moved you into a space that you maybe didn't want
Yep.
and wasn't aware that that was something for you.
Yeah.
And you did it. Walk me through, like, why didn't you and Grace go, you know what? We're just going to be like everyone else. I'll get a job. We'll do our thing. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Why put yourself back into the chaos?
Yeah.
Because like when you walked in
Yeah.
here, you're like, yeah, it was one of those days, right?
Yeah.
It was like, as
Yeah.
a pastor, it's one of those days.
One of those days.
You could have avoided that. I mean, one could argue if you have that pastor's heart, you'll never avoid it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you could have avoided the structure of it.
Yeah.
And yet here you are. Help me understand what's going on in your mind that would draw you back into, like, why even get back involved in this?
Yeah. There were several pieces for us. One, I think one, and probably the most significant one, was like we looked around when the dust settled on all of that. We looked around and God had already built the community. Like the thing was already in place. We were reading through Isaiah 40 to 55 at the time, and if you don't know that passage, that section of text really well, that's like God speaking to the people of Israel in Babylon, in exile, saying to them, look, I'm going to bring you back. I've got a plan for you. It begins, Isaiah 40, verse 1, comfort my people. And that's kind of the next 25 chapters of Isaiah. And it was Isaiah 43 became really a key passage for us. And he said, look, I'm going to make streams in the desert, and I'm going to bring life to the wilderness. And that's just what we experienced. Like we just watched God build the thing, and we're like, I guess we can be a part of it or not. Like that became the choice for us.
Yeah.
Like we can join in what God is already up to, or we can figure out something else on our own. And so for us, in that sense, it became really easy. Like the thing was being built. And so, I was genuinely honest when I said I'm not a church planter. Yeah. Like I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
I don't have any of the like drive or like energy or skill set to really be I'm not a great networker. I just like hanging with people.
Yeah.
And so like I was like, well, if the thing is built and I don't have to be a guy that I'm not, maybe it's worth doing. So that was where we kind of landed.
Okay, time for a quick pause. If Whiskey in the Writings has been helpful to you, there's a deeper layer of this conversation happening off of YouTube. Over on storiesoftove.com, Whiskey in the Writings has its own home. That's where I share extended reflections, behind-the-scene thoughts, and upcoming conversations that have never made it into these videos. It's also where you can sign up for our newsletter. No spam, no noise, just thoughtful writing, and a heads up on what's coming next. If you want to stay connected beyond the algorithm, head over to storiesoftove.com and sign up for the newsletter today. All right, let's get back into it. Let me ask you this then. So you start a church. Your church is called
Resurrection Covenant Boise.
Yep, we call it RCB here.
Yeah.
You are sitting here with Grace, with a team of people that are kind of organically forming around you. And inevitably, I'm assuming that you would have conversations of, what does this look like? Because you can follow the model of like what everyone else is doing, right? It's a show up, you have the one song, you have the announcements, you have, whatever video thing that's got to happen. Then you go 2 songs, then you go sermon, then you go communion or altar call or whatever your tradition does. But like it's the same format, right? And then rinse and repeat, see you next week. And you get to have these conversations. And so I'm assuming that you've reflected considerably on what a faith community ought to be like in your perspective, because there might be people who will disagree with you, and that's fine. So I want to ask you, in your view, what is the church meant to be at its core? And maybe that might require you to define church. Because when I say church, someone says where I go on a Sunday morning.
Right.
But maybe you have a different working definition. So at its core, what is a church meant to be?
Yeah. Well, two preps for
Okay.
that answer. One, as we were doing research, which apparently you're supposed to do when you plant a church, we were doing
Probably a good
research
idea.
about our community. The number one answer.
Community is in the Treasure Valley.
Sorry, is in the
Or in Boise proper.
Treasure Valley as a whole, but
Okay.
we have focused on Boise for several key reasons. But yeah, thinking about the Treasure Valley, there was research on how do people view Jesus in the valley. And the number one most common answer that people could give was the church doesn't look like Jesus. Like that's their number one answer about that they could say about Jesus.
Wow.
So we were like, well, okay, there's kind of there's a market there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you want to use marketing language,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
a group of people who look at Jesus and go, I'm interested in that. And they look around and go, but I don't know where to find him. So that's one key part of the answer for us was we just want to be a place that
reminds
looks
me of
like
that.
Jesus.
Was it Brian McClellan that did I Like Jesus But Not the Church? Do you remember that book?
I don't remember the
Anyway.
book, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's a pretty common
Yeah. It's
sentiment
like a
at
trope.
this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one, and then two, our leadership team. I mean, our church plant, the people that were meeting in our backyard.
Okay.
We got together and said, "What would you want the church to be?" So we just started writing.
Do you remember what some of those responses were?
I don't remember the detail. I mean, we had pages and pages, right? But what we did was we then collected those responses and said, "Can we organize these in any meaningful way?" And those became the core values of the community that we built.
Okay.
So for us, our core values are we want to honor the image of God in all people. We want to follow the way of Jesus. We want unity in the spirit, and we want mercy and justice for the world. So we had a whole bunch of stuff that went into that, but it was stuff like we want a community that cares about racial righteousness, and we want a community that values women and men, and we want a community that like uplifts kids because they're the church now, not the church of the future. And we don't want our worship to be flashy. We want it to be unflashy. We want to learn to listen. That was one of the keys that came up a lot.
Let me ask. So you're bringing out distinctives of how you want your community to operate. Do you think that those things are universal, that every church should do them? Or do you subscribe to an idea that a church can have different distinctives than you and still like be moving the kingdom of God forward? Because like some of the things you're talking about, like when you talk about justice, there are plenty of churches that seeking justice means deporting people who are here illegally. That they would look at these words and actually think that they're fulfilling them. How do you actually make those things take root in definition? And I know this is a big question, but like, how does that differentiation exist with multiple communities? Because we are in a Treasure Valley that is predominantly, I mean, I don't know I guess the demographics, but I would say is a white evangelical, like the Treasure Valley is predominantly white evangelical, right? Where you have churches that are more, premillennial dispensational, like driven. I don't know, like the things that you're talking about, like those are great values. How do you, I don't know how I can drive this home other than there's a lot of faith communities that would be on the other end of that.
Yeah.
Why did you choose that? And how do you think that aligns with where you think God's going in our community?
Oh, that's it. Okay. So I heard several questions in there.
I know. I apologize.
Yeah. Okay, I want to hold on to the last one and the first one that I heard.
Okay.
So what I heard first was can churches do different things?
Yeah, there's a bit of
Yeah. So, and I think, so the answer is it better be okay for churches to look really different, partly because there's all churches look pretty different. All church communities look pretty different.
Yeah.
But also, like, there's a bunch of ways that we know we're not doing everything that we hoped we would do.
You as
our
CB.
community.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Like, there's stuff that we're like, I wish we could do that differently, or have a different impact with, like, we've chosen a way of relating, and like it's not having quite the impact that we'd hoped it would have. So like part of that just means we're still experimenting. We're a few years in and we're still just trying to figure things out. But part of that too is we look around and go, some churches are doing really amazing stuff here that we don't know how to get to there. So again, my hope is that different churches can be doing it differently, and that's okay. And God can advance the kingdom through all of these different churches. Now, part of what you're asking, though, is like what I hear you asking, at least, and you can correct me. But part of what I hear you asking is, okay, but there's like diametrically opposed values. Like you said, like deporting immigrants might be the way of
that's
pursuing
actually
justice. Right. And
breaking the law, we're making it right.
Yeah. And I think where that is like honest and sincere, I think God can bring goodness. I heard a story this week from a woman who goes to a church that would agree with us on how to treat immigrants. But she was telling the story of down in Texas, some kids got left when their mom got deported, and it was a Trump voting, like, law and order pastor that cared for those kids and made sure they got back to their mom. Like, he did the work. He made sure, like, the money was raised and that they got back to their mom. Like, praise God. Like, there's a way in which law and order, I think, can be sincere.
Yeah.
My concern is there's a way in which I can value that and want to argue scripture with that pastor. Okay. But then I would also want to look and go, and when it came down to it, look what you did. Like, God used you to care for those kids when they needed care. Like, praise God for that. But I would want to argue scripture with them over that. My concern, though, is that there's a whole bunch of folks where it's not sincere. Like, my concern in the church is that it's a way of attracting people, or it's a way of gaining power. It's not a sincere conviction about what Scripture has to say. Yeah. I think you can be sincerely wrong, and God still God used the death of His Son Jesus to bring the salvation of the world. Like, if God can do that, God can use our mixed and bad motives to bring all kinds of good in places that we don't deserve it, but God, in His grace, can do all kinds of stuff that
How do you reconcile then the tension that grows with those that look at the way, because you brought up the point that that the studies were showing that people were saying, the church and Jesus, they don't look the same.
That's good.
And the people that have experienced that in a very real way, as in your own story, where you might go, there's a gap there.
Yep.
Well-intentioned people that love Jesus with all their heart, trying to do what they think is right. However, the way that was expressed did not look like Jesus.
Yeah.
And so there's so many people that sit in these spaces that go, I can't reconcile the church you say is God's and the Jesus that it proposes to worship. What would you say to someone who is sitting in a space where they're going, that gap is so wide, I can't even, what do you do with that?
So I think of the church that Jesus built and that Paul talked about.
Okay.
The Paul quote that I would go to is John 17, love one another. Father, let them be united as you and I are one, so that the world might know that that you have sent me.
Mm.
That's where I go to.
Mm.
So, yeah, John 17, the high priestly prayer.
Yeah.
The number one thing we're called to, like, for the sake of the world, for our missional purpose, and to show the world that we believe that Jesus is who he says he is we love one another.
Yeah.
And you just described, like, the whole history of the thing, how we've blown that, like,
Wow.
wide open, right? And I would go to Paul and say, like, Paul's whole thing, like, in what, 6 of his letters or something like that, is, hey, Jew and Gentile together, that's what demonstrates to the world the mystery of the gospel, that is, that Jesus is Lord. So for me, I mean, this isn't the only thing, churches. We can be united around all kinds of gross stuff, right? Like, we can find ways to be united that don't have anything to do with Jesus.
Okay.
But we're called to be a people who are one, who love one another well, around Jesus. Like, this is why communion, the Eucharist, is so important to me. Like, we're all the same when it comes to, like, the foot of the cross. I mean, that's an old saying, and it's in some ways a little bit trite, but I think it's also very true. Like, when it comes to the foot of the cross, at this location, when we're receiving the body and blood of Jesus, like, we are united in our need for him and in his love poured out for us. So, like, at that location, we are being who we're called to be.
So you're talking about the church at its core is a people who are united under the
Jesus'
banner
lordship.
of Christ, his kingdom, that sort of thing. Okay. So let me push on that then.
Yeah.
What happens when the values that I think Jesus is for differs from down the street and what they think Jesus is for? Because so much, like, let's the social, you already talked about the abortion conversation. Let's talk about same-sex attraction, that conversation. There is so much that people would say this is actually what Jesus is for. And if we're not united in that, then we aren't actually like, you're not on my team anymore. Like, if you don't think these sorts of things, which then, we could spend another couple hours talking about, like, how the political system has hijacked those things, hijacked the hearts and imagination of Christians to align itself to gain more power, because it goes, hey, we're for this thing. That means you need to be with us. Different conversation. Don't want to sidetrack too much, but I want to say, like, that's a nice novelty. But what does that look like in practice when we are in a culture today that, like right now, our country is bombing another country. And there are Christians that go, about time, and there are Christians that go, our hearts should be mourning. What do we do with that? Sorry, these are hard questions.
No, I don't think that these kinds of questions are any different than the ones that Jesus was dealing with the 12, or that Paul was dealing with in the early church. Right? Like, with the 12, you've got a tax collector and a zealot, like, in the room, right? Like, somehow Jesus found a way to keep them together. You've got a tax collector who's working with Rome, and a zealot who believes they should be killing the Romans. Like, somehow Jesus found a way to pull that off. And again, Paul, like, pick a letter. Like, he's dealing with serious tensions, largely between Jew and Gentile, but also often between Jew and Jew, or Gentile and Gentile. Like, there's a lot of difference
or him and Peter.
Like, they're in like tension and argument.
Him and Barnabas.
I mean, it's all over the early church. So in some ways it feels like, because it's our time and it's our responsibility now, it feels like the biggest that it's ever been, but it's not. It's just the same that it's always been.
I love that.
So the early church found a way
Like as if we're the first ones to experience this
Yeah.
tension. You're going like, actually, biblically, you can actually see it in the biblical text.
It's all over the biblical
That
text.
tension was
Yeah.
already there.
Yeah.
Jesus had an ability to like make that work, and we might go, well, that's Jesus. Okay, that's
Totally.
fair.
Yep.
But like even with Paul and Peter and Paul and Barnabas
Yep.
and these tensions that existed, you know, what is it? I don't know the Greek names. It's Eutychus and Syntyche or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's how you say those names.
Yep.
But you know, like, hey, those two need to get along. Like Paul's encouraging. Like there is this tension of like conflict or disagreement from the very beginning in the biblical text, and it doesn't hide that from you.
Nope.
It doesn't say, hey, everybody, this was perfect. Everything was great. Hey, you know, look the other direction.
Yeah.
They name it. They talk about it. They reveal it to us. And you're saying, so it shouldn't surprise us.
Yeah.
Okay.
None of this should surprise us. Okay. That doesn't mean our path forward is easy somehow. In fact, like if you just looked at the Corinthian letters, right? The first letter starts with, some of you are saying, I'm from Paul and I'm from Apollos.
Yeah. I baptized.
Yeah. Like you're divided from the beginning. The second letter is written because it's still a mess.
Yeah.
And it ends with Paul like going off because he's pissed off at this community. He's like done with these people. But so nobody's saying it's easy, right? We require the death and resurrection of Jesus in order to pull off what I'm suggesting should be our way forward. There's no other way other than the language that I've used comes out of Philippians 2. Like the way of Jesus is this.
Okay.
Not grasping after power, but like humbling ourselves, laying ourselves down.
Oh, so the poem,
the
Jesus poem, right? That he didn't see something to be God, something to be grasped, but humbled himself, lowered himself.
Yeah, and I would even
to death on a cross.
I've got this translation that I really like for the beginning of that. It's not a perfect translation, but I think it captures the purpose of what Paul's saying there. Okay. It's not that he didn't see equality with God something to be grasped. More like he didn't see grasping as equal with God, or even like he saw not grasping to be equality with God. As in, our giving ourselves up for the sake of others is the way that we look like the character of God. That's who God is. And it's demonstrated in the person of Jesus, who gave himself up, became like, he had status. He gave himself up to be a human, not just a human, but a slave, not just a slave, but a criminal who was crucified. That's the way that we find unity with one another.
So you're talking about this ethic of the kingdom. The first will become last. The last will become first. Whoever loves his life must lose it. These sorts of teachings that come out of the way of Jesus that indicate this lowering of self, and that's the ethic towards Christian unity.
And what it requires, it doesn't get us there. It requires the Holy Spirit to actually then do the rest of that poem, which is, and so God raised him from the dead and gave him the place that is above every other place, gave him the name above every name, so that the name of Jesus every knee should bow and every tongue confess. So like we can lower ourselves and God raises up and like builds the unity of the church. As we humble ourselves. If we don't humble ourselves, then we're just causing more and more division, which is what you see in the history of the church, right? My read of church history is that we have found ways to continue to grasp after something that doesn't belong to us. And we're still in the garden. We're still taking the fruit. And God's saying, I want to give you good things. If you will just receive them from me, humble yourselves, receive them when I offer them to you, rather than taking them for yourselves. So I think that's where unity comes from. We have tried to make that an ethic at RCB in our community there's a bunch of ways that we do that, but we did a training around navigating difficult conversations that was built around that Philippians 2 poem, saying, okay, our job is not to convince anybody else that we're right and they're wrong. Our job is to listen, to hear, to allow them to kind of work out their stuff and humbly like participate in the conversation. And then if we have differences, that's okay. We allow Jesus to build the unity. We don't have to force it. We don't have to make something happen. Again, it's not grasping. It's like humbling ourselves and allowing God to lift up the community for his own sake.
So let's transition. Want to be respectful of your time, and we're definitely got to have you back because I got a lot more thoughts. I want to talk about Augustine. I want to talk about like the Cappadocian Fathers with you because I know you got a lot. I have a lot of thoughts about those guys.
Yeah, awesome.
Anyway, well, that's a topic for another day. But I do want to end on a conversation around the hope. Yeah. I believe that the gathering of people, the community that we can call the church, Jesus people who come together on a weekly basis, practice communion, Eucharist, whatever you want to call. I guess I look at like Justin Martyr's First Apology as like the litmus test of how churches ought to be. For some reason. It was like, so we gather the first of the week and we sing to Jesus as a God. We, they listen to teaching of the apostles for as long as time permits, which always cracks me up. Like, can you imagine that today? Nope. We got to keep it an hour, but they just go, as long as time allows us, we're going to at least listen to the memoirs of the apostles or whatever. And then someone expands on it. So there's some expository, they take up a collection, they feed each other, they do Eucharist, they do these things. And RCB does that. Yeah. And I love that you do a meal once a month where you all come together and you do a meal. I'm like, I just think of Justin Martyr when I think of you guys. Yeah, and that's awesome. So I believe in, I think, my wife and I, we go to church and we've not given up on it. But for those that are listening that are like, man, I just don't know that I can enter into a space ever again. What hope is there for the church? Why would one ever go, okay, I'll give it another shot?
Yeah. Can I start with just talking to that person? Because I think that's really significant. Like if you're at a place where you're like, I don't think that I can go back to church. I just want to name, like, as a pastor, it might not be the right moment for you to go back to church. Like if you're in the kind of pain where you need a break, like I want to give you freedom from Jesus to like take a break from the weekly gathering or from the Sunday gathering. I think there's so much value in being together. Like I told you before, I when I walked in the door, I had a really hard day. And that was our own family stuff, and it was like other pastoral situations that I'm dealing with. But oh my goodness, like I cannot imagine going through what our family's going through or seeing what other people are going through without a community. Like I need it. Like I just will acknowledge to you and to you, like I need that community because I don't think I could make it without it. So that's just me. But if you're at a place where it's like too painful, like I just feel free to not show up to church. Like there can be a season, and that like you see this throughout Scripture. So I want to start with 40 days, right? 40 days in the wilderness. Jesus did it. Elijah did it. The people of Israel spent 40 years. So I don't recommend 40 years. Partly because our society is built in such a way that we get destroyed really quickly. We get atomized and individualized, and we can't like live in our society well. We become the kinds of people we don't want to be when we're by ourselves for too long. So I think community is significant. I think the church is significant. But if you need a break, talk to Jesus about it, but feel free to take one. So I want to start there. But I think the church is significant, again, for like doing the things that you just talked about, like being together, caring for one another. We just do that better together. My hope for the church in the long run is that we become a community built around the humility of Jesus. Like, how do we give ourselves up for the sake of others? How do we love one another? Our community, Joe's experienced it. We do, so we don't preach all that often. We spend more time, like cultivating each other's questions and then discussing, looking at Jesus and cultivating questions about what Jesus is up to, and then discussing what we see Jesus doing together. Partly because we want to learn to ask good questions.
Yeah.
And then partly we want to learn to like respond to the questions that we actually see, rather than trying to wrestle with like historical critical analysis of the text. We want to sit with Jesus and go, Jesus, what do you have for me today from this text? And I think churches that are doing that kind of thing, learning to sit with Jesus and like follow after him, to me, give me hope. Yeah. They give me a space to go, okay, like this is the thing that Jesus is calling us to, is to look, our vision statement is bearing witness to Jesus. Like we want to bear witness to, this is what Jesus looks like. This is how he's living in the world. This is how he's inviting us to operate in the world. We want to be that kind of people. My conviction long-term is that Jesus really is the only hope for the world. I forget who I was talking to this about this with, but it's not like if we give up the church, we get a kind of benign secular society. What we're seeing in the world today is when the church kind of gives up its own role in our culture, what we're seeing grow is, again, not benign secular society. It's like neo-pagan, Nietzschean, like take over and like kill stuff. Like that's what we're seeing like in the administration right now.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, it's good to kill stuff. Like, okay, like Nick Fuentes is what we get when the church stops being the church in our culture.
Okay. We might go over a little bit.
Sorry.
Okay.
I just went a place you didn't intend to go. But.
No, but I want to ask the question because the reality is that most people wouldn't say that the church wasn't going there. The problem is that the church actually embraced it.
Yeah, totally.
So like from like Christian nationalism to like this idea that like, no, the church, the role of the church is actually to enforce a way of, so like, I hear you say like when the church is not active, we see a negative outcome. And I would argue the church is very active right now.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a negative outcome.
Yeah. That's why I corrected it the second time I said it, to when the church isn't being the church.
Okay,
when the church is doing a thing that it's not supposed to be doing. It's not like we get when the church is grasping. I mean, this would be the language of Philippians 2. When the church is seeking power and grasping.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Let me just say this, because I imagine, not all viewers that are watching this are fans. So I get the comments,
totally.
Right?
Yeah.
So there are going to be some that would say, what do you mean that the church is doing it wrong? Yeah. And so let me ask this question. In your opinion, what is the litmus test? Like, because they would go, wait, you're saying when the church is doing it wrong, this is the outcome of it. Yeah. And it's like, so what is that then? Yeah. Is it that the church should be like not engaged in politics and culture?
Yeah.
Should we just retreat? Should we be like the Essenes and just kind of find our own little communities and create little hubs of places? Yeah. Should we be the Sadducees and partner with the political? Should we be the Pharisees and go like, we just need to create a moral high law and like, what should we be then? Yeah. And so, but I don't know. I know we're going further, but I just this is hitting me because I want
to. This is fun for me. So
okay, good.
I'm here. I still got bourbon here. So
I love it. Okay,
I'm good.
So what is it then? Because you clarified, you said when the church is not being what it should be, these are the sorts of things. Then what is the litmus test of what it should be or shouldn't be? Because there are people that are listening that are going, wait a minute, this is new to me. I think the church is actually doing what it should be doing.
Yeah.
So what do you see in the discrepancy there?
Yeah, I mean, we could get into a whole like understanding of political theology, which is like this is your Augustine question. Like gets us in a
like
whole
City of God stuff.
City of God stuff.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Yeah.
So I have opinions.
Yeah. So fun.
I'm not a fan. That's my opinion. I'm not a fan. But one day I'll bring Josh back to help me understand a little bit better. So,
so that's a conversation we probably can't have here. But I think I would go back to the heart of what I said earlier. Like, are we bearing witness to Jesus? And what I mean by that is kind of, are we talking about Jesus? Sure. Like, I think that's important.
Yeah, quantify this.
Yeah.
That's a big thing, to be like Jesus. What does that actually mean, though?
Yeah. So yeah, the bearing witness language is the one that I think helps me flesh it out for my own brain.
Okay.
One, we bear witness when we're on the witness stand, right?
Okay.
We bear witness by like saying the truth about who Jesus is.
Okay.
So like, I think I would have some quibbles, but I think there's a lot of like, a lot of churches who I would say are basically saying the truth about who Jesus is.
Okay.
And that's one part of what bearing witness looks like. But in the reality of the world, bearing witness actually looks like an embodied looking like Jesus. And you and I love Revelation.
Mm-hmm.
We could talk Revelation all day.
We need to have an episode just for that.
Yeah, just for that. But Revelation talks about bearing witness as, following the Lamb. Yeah. That is looking like the Lamb. Like you do the stuff that the Lamb does. And to bear witness to the Lamb, to Jesus, is opposed in Revelation to bearing witness to the beast, where you follow the way of the beast by taking up violence, propaganda, abusing your neighbors, like the kind of stuff. Chapter 12 and 13 are kind of the heart of that thing. Like when the dragon shows up and the beast shows up, like it's coercive economics, it's violence, it's lies, it's like forcing other people into this thing that they don't want to be a part of. All of that demonstrates, in my understanding, okay, we actually believe that the beast is the more powerful of the two entities, rulers of the world. Like, if we believe in the Lamb, then we're going to look like the Lamb. Like, imperfectly, we're all doing this the best we can.
Yeah.
But if we believe in the Lamb, then we actually believe that the death and resurrection of Jesus is more powerful than the way of the beast, which is like, it's more powerful in the kingdom, in the Lamb's way of thinking, in certainly John's writing of Revelation. It's more powerful for me to die as a martyr to Jesus than it is for me to hurt somebody else. Like, it does more for the kingdom. It does more to defeat evil. It does more to bring good into the world. It does more to like participate in new creation life. So what I would argue with someone whose theology might be good, but who is saying like, okay, but we need to hold the levers of power in America, I would say you're trusting in an empire that is doomed to fail, which is led by a system. Like, I'm grateful for America, so don't hear what I'm not saying.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm grateful to live
the
here.
The adage, like, you got to say everything to say anything. And it's like, it's impossible.
Right. Totally. But my conviction is America's at its end. Like, I don't know what the timing is. It could be 1,000 years before America's done, but America's already coming to an end. It's part of the empires of the world. The empires of the world don't have like lasting participation in new creation. Um, it lives by violence and economic coercion. It tells lies about itself and about others. It doesn't. It hasn't repented of its sins. Like,
Yeah.
America is an empire that's going to fall. And I don't believe that the power of America, like holding the levers of political power, participating in its military, um, participating in its any of the stuff that I've just named, economic coercion, all that. I don't believe that demonstrates the way of Jesus, and participating in it doesn't defeat evil in any meaningful way. So instead, like, me giving up my life for the sake of others, like, does a whole lot more to bring about the kingdom and to work against the powers of evil than holding political office in the United States.
So what I hear you saying is, if I were to try to like summarize what I think you're saying, is that you believe that the litmus test is an embodied ecclesiology, which is to say, like, how the church should function is an embodied, which means we are living, we're actionably modeling and living the teachings of Jesus through our body. So an embodied ecclesiology is what the church should be. Versus maybe what we're experiencing is that the church maybe is functioning more on a theological ecclesiology, which is to say, we believe that we need to get souls to heaven. And that's all that matters. And so my theology is like a penal substitution, kind of like whatever. And so we just got to get people saved. We got to, get them. And you're saying that theology, the thing that you believe, isn't as important as the way that you're living. The embodied isn't like, I don't know, maybe clarify I'm wrong, but that's kind of what I hear you saying.
So I think the place I would clarify is what you are living demonstrates what you actually believe. So you can say, I could sign off on a statement of faith, but and say that I believe the Lamb has won. But if my demonstrated life looks more like a beastly kind of life, like if I'm just living in the empire and following after my own desires and following after like political power and all, like if I'm grasping and then I'm demonstrating my heart is being lived out in my life. So it's not that I think they're separate. I think they're the same. They're always the same for every person. Now, the reality here too is like we're all coming to a thing. Like we're all on a journey, right? So my prayer for like Pete Hegseth, who I vehemently disagree with his policies, his understanding of theology, etc. My prayer for him is that he's coming to a new understanding over time, and that Pete Hegseth today is not the same as Pete Hegseth of 30 years from now, and he will be humbled and like know Jesus in a new way. That in some ways that was for me the tragedy of Charlie Kirk. Is my understanding was he was coming to a new understanding of Jesus over time, and so in a lot of ways the most tragic part of his death is that we didn't get to see that lived out. Because I disagree with the guy, like basically across the board. But if he was learning a new understanding of Jesus, and we could have seen that, man, that could have been powerful. Like he could have led that whole movement in a whole new direction. So that's the tragedy. Anyway.
So let's wrap this up on again, back at hope. So what gives you hope about the church right now? What gives you hope about the church right now? What are you seeing that you go, we're going to be okay?
Honestly, it's for me a genuinely difficult question. Like I have struggled with hope in the last season, and but there are churches that I'm really excited about. Ours I'm really excited about because of, and maybe this is the actual answer to the question, because of what I see Jesus up to.
Yeah.
And my hope long term is that Jesus can do a thing beyond my vision, beyond my understanding. Stephen Colbert was interviewing Ta-Nehisi Coates. I don't know if you've ever seen this interview.
I didn't see that one.
Ta-Nehisi Coates, if you've never read Ta-Nehisi Coates, I recommend it. But he is like a prophet of like reality. And Stephen Colbert looked at him. He's like, "Where am I supposed to find hope in what you're telling me?" And his answer was, "You don't come to me for hope. That's why you go to your pastor."
Okay.
Which, as a pastor,
As a pastor,
that's a
here
good
we go.
answer.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. I don't know where hope is going to come from in the church. I guess two things I would mention. First, I believe that the church is called to be, and I started with this, like the church is called to be a place where divisions are overcome. So like where we find unity together despite our divisions.
Yeah.
And because I believe that we're called to be that, God is going to accomplish that, whether we like mess it up a number of times or not.
Yeah.
So I actually think we're in a season of things being shaken up so that in the long run, there's new possibilities for unity that don't appear to me to be possible right now. And the second thing I would mention is the same thing I've said before. If God can raise the dead, I'm convinced there's nothing that God can't do. So if it feels hopeless right now, my conviction is God can bring life out of even this situation. So that's honestly that's why we called the church Resurrection, because like there's so much brokenness. We need resurrection, and I believe in a God that has accomplished it already and will continue to accomplish resurrection life.
Well, thank you, Josh. If someone wants to get a hold of you and talk with you more, what's a good way that they could get in touch with you?
Yeah, my email is Josh, Josh, at resurrectionboise.org. So if you can spell resurrection and you can spell Boise, you got it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking this time. I've already got a couple other videos in my brain that I want to explore with you. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And until next time.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. This is a real gift. Appreciate it.
Thank you.